Hi guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Kitchen. This video is part of a series I am calling Learning to Cook with Carbon Steel. If you're new to carbon steel, got a new pan, and want to get the most out of it, this is the video series for you. In the last episode, we took a brand new Cookware Mineral B Pro 11-inch, brand new pan and packaging, and seasoned it, gave it its initial seasoning. In this video, we're going to do the first cook. And if you want to learn your pan, I suggest this as a good first cook for you as well. We're going to cook fried potatoes. Now, if that doesn't sound ambitious, it actually is. There is a tremendous amount to be learned about carbon steel that you can learn from cooking a humble potato. And if you master the concepts in this video, you can apply these techniques to a wide variety of cooking other foods. Okay, we're going to focus on three concepts, three lessons in this video. The first is pan temperature, crucially important. If you are moving to carbon steel from a chemical-coated nonstick skillet, for example, you may have never given a second thought to pan temperature. But in carbon steel cookware, other cookware as well, but especially carbon steel, pan temperature control is crucial. For a food like potatoes, if you cook them at the wrong temperature, they can just fuse, be stuck like a duck. And I often make the joke about taking a hammer and chisel to get potatoes out of the pan. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how to cook yours at the correct temperature. And what we want are potatoes that are cooked nicely internally, nice color and browning on the outside, and no sticking in our pan. Second, some people season their carbon steel pans over and over and over. I think this is a big waste of time. I am a proponent of season once and just start cooking. So we're going to take this pan that we have seasoned just once and see how it cooks. Now we're going to cook on a variety of cooktops: gas cooktop, induction, and electric, and see how it does. And third, if everything goes correctly, and it will, I'll show you some easy cleanup tips for a carbon steel skillet, and we'll make sure our seasoning is looking good and the pan is ready for the next cook. Oh yeah, and we get to eat some delicious fried potatoes. So let's jump in and get started. Going to prepare my potatoes. Nothing fancy here. Another benefit to cooking potatoes for the first cook is if we do screw something up, which we won't, but if you do, you're only out a 40, 50-cent potato. It's not like messing up a $30 prime ribeye. So potatoes are a great way to start and do some learning. And these guys, I'm going to give them a good scrub. Then I'm going to peel them. And someone always asks me here, if you're going to peel the potatoes, why do you scrub them first? You know how much dirt I want in my food? None. Get those guys peeled. I rinse them again after I peel them. And I've got a bowl of water here, and I'm going to put the potatoes in that bowl of water. Now I'm going to cut them up, and I square off the sides here. Don't worry, these the pieces I'm taking off the sides, I will cook those up later, but I want a nice uniform, relatively square potato for this cooking test. And you can cut them whatever size you want. I like somewhere around that 3/8, no larger than a 1/2-inch squares. Now, keeping the cut potatoes in water, it's going to pull just a little bit of starch out of those potatoes. But the main reason here, while I'm getting everything else ready, is I don't want these potatoes to brown out in the air while I'm getting everything else ready to cook. So keep them in water. And then when I'm ready to cook, what I'm going to do is drain and rinse these potatoes. And I've got a cookie sheet here with some paper towels on it. And I'm going to lay these potatoes out on the cookie sheet, on those paper towels, and take more paper towels and get them as dry as possible. Frying tip here, you don't want to add really wet food to hot oil. Not only would it splatter a bunch, but it might not cook correctly. So we want these guys to be as dry as possible. And those are ready to go. Let's start on the gas stove with our new Cookware. Never been cooked in, one layer of seasoning on there. And what I'm going to do is start this guy heating up on a medium burner at medium heat. Now, a little carbon steel tip here at the top. I would get a little notepad and a pen or pencil and keep it by your stove as you're learning your carbon steel. You won't have to do this forever, but the first 7, 8, 10 cooks or so, keep track of the burner you're using, small, medium, or large. Keep track of the time you're spending preheating, the temperature setting, And if something sticks, we're not going to panic. We're not going to re-season our pan. We're just going to clean it up and keep on cooking. Cook more and worry about your seasoning less. But the next time you just adjust one of the factors. And after 7, 8, 10 cooks or so, you will get everything dialed in. But keep good notes early on. Don't take notes on your phone because you're going to get a text, you're going to check email, you're going to get a fantasy football update, and you will get distracted. Now you can use whatever fat you like to cook in, vegetable oil, peanut oil, etc. I am using beef tallow here. And I'm going to let that pan heat for 2 minutes, dry and empty. Now I'm going to add my beef tallow. I'm going to let that warm up for about 45 seconds or so. And here is your first trick for knowing if your pan is at a good temperature or not. If you get any type of smoking or anything smells like it's burning, the pan is way too hot. But what I like to do is put some test potatoes in the pan. I usually do a north, south, east, west, and one in the middle. And I gotta say, cooking in this pan for the first time, it is a good sign when the first test potato scoots right across the pan. I know it's not sticking, it's sizzling nicely, and I'm going to assume that the bubbles are scooting that thing across the pan and that my house is not out of level. And what I'm looking for when I put these test potatoes in is I want to see them sizzle. Now, if you get a wisp of smoke or something smells like it's burning, then the pan is too hot. If the test potato doesn't sizzle at all, the pan is too cold and those potatoes will probably stick. What I'm looking for is some nice sizzling like this. So now I add the rest of my potatoes, and instantaneously you can tell these things are not stuck. Give the pan a goose, they slide around. And what I usually do here is turn the flame down just a little bit. I want those potatoes to continue to sizzle, continue to be non-stick. I goose the pan and the potatoes are sliding around, but I don't want these things to brown in the first 2-3 minutes or so. I want them to kind of slowly turn golden over 6 to 8 minutes. That way the interior of the potato cooks and gets done before the outside is too brown. And then once that has happened, I turn the flame back up a little bit and add that color and crunch to the outside. And then I take these guys out, salt them immediately, and that's all there is to it on a gas cooktop. Now let's move over to an induction cooktop. Now when you use carbon steel on an induction burner, the first tip is to not use the rapid boil, the rapid blast setting. Carbon steel and induction sometimes don't play very well together. If you blast the carbon steel, you could possibly warp a pan, and you don't want to do that to your nice new pan. Here, the induction, this Breville Control Freak, is a lot more precise, and I can dial in a specific temperature. What I'm going to do here is put the pan at 350 degrees. And again, doing the test potatoes, and it seems like that 350 temperature is a good way to go. Get the potatoes in there, and again, immediately they are sliding, no sticking, and they're sizzling nicely. What's interesting about this Control Freak, and I guess I end up doing this, the same thing, I fiddle with the gas a little bit on the gas cooktop. On the induction, I also adjust the temperature. It's just more precise, and I can tell the exact temperature that I'm dialing in. So at 350, once I put the potatoes in, the pan temperature actually dropped down about 80 degrees. So it was down in the high 270, 290 range, and the potatoes seem to cook pretty well there. Again, I don't want them browning in the first 2 to 3 minutes. If they were browning too quickly, I would turn the heat down a little bit more. And then again, around 8 minutes or so, I tried a test potato. It was done internally. So now I want to turn the heat back up a little bit and get that color and crunch on the outside. Also, I want to point out here that I am using metal utensils in this carbon steel skillet. You can use metal utensils in carbon steel, and it doesn't hurt anything. There may be some small scratches. We'll take a look at that here in just a minute, but that might ruin a chemical coated nonstick pan. But these carbon steels are tough as nails, and you can use metal utensils in them without worry. And these turned out nicely. Now let's head down to my basement where I have an electric stove down there, and it's essentially the same thing. Now, I'm not sure about everyone else's electric stove. This one seems to be not quite as intense or responsive as the gas cooktop or that induction cooktop. Mine goes from 0 to 10, and I started out with the heat somewhere around 6, and I had a test potato in there, and it wasn't sizzling enough. So what did I do? I turned up the heat to 7-8, so that would be medium high. And the potatoes started sizzling. The test potatoes got everything in there. After they were cooking for a while though, I saw a wisp of smoke and I could smell it. So immediately I knew the pan temperature was too hot. So I turned that down just a little bit. And here the potatoes still sliding, no sticking. I control the rate of browning. And after 6-8 minutes, when they're done internally, again, then I turned the temperature back up and add some color and crunch to the outside. And then just for fun, I cooked up those squared off ends and they did well as well. No sticking either. Now I've shown in other videos just to illustrate some other pans, but potatoes cooked at the wrong temperature, this is what happens. It's a disaster. But now you know how to get the proper pan temperature for potatoes in your carbon steel skillet. So crucially important, getting that pan temperature dialed in. With an induction burner, you just dial it in literally to the degree. If you don't have an induction burner, you've got to cook a couple of times, use that notepad and pen, and make sure you adjust your time and temperature. And definitely make sure you use those test potatoes. If your test potatoes slide and sizzle and are non-stick, then when you add the rest of the potatoes, you know you're at a good temperature. If the potatoes don't sizzle and don't slide, you're too low. If you get a wisp of smoke or the potatoes brown within the first 2 to 3 minutes, you're cooking too hot. Now the second thing we want to look at is how did this carbon steel perform after just one round of seasoning? We cooked on gas, induction, and electric with just one round of seasoning. We got no sticking whatsoever. We got nice browning and non-stick food. I think just seasoning once and starting cooking is the way to go. Now, if we had seasoned that pan another 5 or 6 times, would it have been any more non-stick? I say season once and just start cooking. Cook more and worry about your seasoning less. And third, how about some cleanup tips? What I'm doing here while the tallow is still hot, I'm pouring it out. I'm gonna let that cool and I will reuse the leftover tallow. And now I'm just taking paper towels and wiping out the pan. I'm not using any water, not using any dish soap. I am just wiping this guy out with paper towels. Several different wads of paper towels to get all that oil out of there. And then I'm taking some of the used paper towels and wiping those around the bottom of the pan. There's going to be just a little bit of tallow left on there, and that should serve as my protective oil until the next time I cook. But if you fry potatoes correctly, which we did, there is nothing stuck in that pan and there is no need to even wash it. Pretty doggone cool, I think. Now we use those metal utensils in the pan. And if you look closely at the surface, you see a bunch of tiny scratches. Is that a big deal? No, it is not. It is okay to use metal utensils in carbon steel skillets. You'll get some of those tiny scratches in there. Lots of people believe that the next time we season the pan, or as the seasoning comes in, the more and more we cook, those tiny scratches give that seasoning something to grip to. So I actually like some tiny scratches in my carbon steel skillets. Now, if you can get a non-stick fried potato, what else can you do? You can take these cooking techniques and apply them to a wide variety of foods. You can do French fries, of course. You can do fried okra. You can do breaded squash and zucchini, on and on and on. Now, if you're moving over from a chemical coated non-stick skillet, you will find that once you get your pan temperature control dialed in, carbon steel is remarkably non-stick as well. Hope this first cook helps you get started. Look for links on the screen to the next video in the Learning to Cook with Carbon Steel series. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.